panelists, without further delay, let's embark on our third panel discussion of the day, centering around the crucial theme of collaborative innovation, states partnering for collective growth. It is my pleasure to extend an invitation to Shri Dilip Chenoy, Chairman of Bharat Web3 Association, to preside over this enlightening panel as the chairperson. Shri Chenoy's extensive experience and leadership in the technology domain make him an ideal guide for our discussion on collaborative innovation. Now, let us warmly welcome our distinguished panelists, each a notable individual in their respective fields. First on our panel is Ms. Poornima Garg, the Country Director of Room to Read India, bringing a wealth of experience in fostering collaborative partnerships for educational growth. Next, we have Ms. Reshmi Vasudevan, an innovation expert and former National Project Coordinator at UNIDO, whose insights into collaborative innovation at a global scale will be invaluable. Joining us is Dr. Ashish Mohan, the Executive Director of Head of Technology Research at the Confederation of Indian Industry, CII. He has been significantly contributing to collaborative initiatives within the industry. Last, but certainly not the least, we welcome Shri Nakul Kumar, co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of Cashify, offering perspectives on collaborative innovation from the entrepreneurial landscape. Together, let's explore the dynamics of collaborative innovation and how states can partner for collective growth. I now pass the baton to Shri Chenoy to lead us through this insightful discussion.
Thank you and good afternoon, everybody. We know that this panel is between lunch and you. So I thought I'd speak, but then I can do a faster PowerPoint presentation. My presentation is really in three parts. Innovation promotion in states, and please look at this from the lens of the topic of this panel. Do states promote interstate cooperation? There's no reflection on your state policies or the work you're doing. It's simply relating to do states promote interstate cooperation. Are there any examples of cross-boundary collaboration, innovation? I'll share some examples. And how do we actually partnership for collective growth? So, first of all, how are we promoting innovation at the state level? Interestingly, most states do not have an overarching science and technology policy. Most states do have, and this was from the 1970s, a state science and technology council whose purpose is to promote science and technology, and if I may add, innovation. 31 out of 36 have startup policy. It's very interesting. But states promote innovation between a number of other policies: biotech policy, IT policy, manufacturing, MSME. There are specific provisions in industrial policy, and a number of states have a stated objective of competing for the presence of global capacity centers. And of course, you have state higher education policy, etc. Of course, 7% of national R&D comes from states. Typically, state institutions focus on agriculture, health, environment, etc. And there are around 479 state universities which are not connected, and states have private R&D centers supported by the state. Did a very quick analysis, and if you're from your state and there is a mistake here, please attribute it to information asymmetry rather than any purpose. Like I said, startup policy, but very few states have a kind of R&D and innovation policy there. Very interestingly, it focuses on different aspects. Not going to spend time, you all know this. But the focus of all the R&D policies is to look at clusters in their own states, within industry, central labs, HEIs, institutions. They want to diversify innovation from the central cities to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. But only one state, in one state policy, I could even find the mention of a city in another state. So the state policies do not look at promoting interstate collaboration at best. are the examples of global, and I took 3 areas: nuclear, CERN, everybody knows us. Internet was actually founded by a cross-border and an inter-university kind of collaboration. The Human Genome Project, actually 20 universities across UK, US, France, Germany, Japan. Amit and others talked about saying, are we equivalent to, UP equivalent to France? So, but if you just look at, can we collaborate among states to make this happen? And a centrally funded project, which is a multi-university research initiative in the US, is supporting and pushing entities to actually look at collaborating across state boundaries and collaborating across specialties, social science, engineering, science, etc., etc. So are there some lessons for us in India to look at? 3 things what you can do without any money. Visit there. Niti Aayog Innovation Index does not have a section on initiatives taken to look at cross-state or interstate collaboration. Can Niti include that? Can we award and reward it? Very simple. Promote missions. We have CII here. Take missions from one state, take them to the other state, look at what's happening. Create interstate networks of HEIs, labs, industry. In the education field, when the new IITs or the new institutes are coming up, you had a mother institute who was not necessarily in that state actually mentoring that. Can we replicate that in this area? For all of you who are experts in this field, you need to look at creating a matrix of sectors and topics and institutions that actually do that. And the idea what I'm presenting here is to make, how do you amplify your investment? You have limited budgets. Can you piggyback on the budget of another state or another sector, add it, and instead of 1 plus 1, 2, make 1 plus 1, 11. So identify desired outcomes and create infrastructure and capacity. See, you don't have to replicate. So if you want to buy the same equipment that another state has and you only use it for a fraction of the time, it's a wasted investment rather than actually cooperating with them. Now, 4 areas for you to look at. I just took it because I saw what are the common areas different states do. Climate, health, agriculture, IT, AI, Web3. A lot of people have talked about Web3. First, you need to have the intent. So just say, I am going to collaborate 1% of my thing, I'm going to collaborate in another state. Like I talked of identify, initiate, involve, incubate, and like Dr. Saraswat said, the whole thing about innovation is realizing value, innovate, industrializing it, getting a product out. How can you do that? And I just took this because all of us love having tea. So the 6 I's in chai is what your recipe is going forward. Again, government should reduce risk. The ease of doing science in your states, the ease of innovation in your states needs to be looked at. I don't think there's an index now, but if you look at it, FAST has done some work and shared it with Niti Aayog, but buy it, right? I know that Mr. Sandeep talked about the challenges of buying it, collaborate it, using standards and regulations to encourage it. So if the state is giving something, let's say mixers, just take an example, to its population, insist that it is actually made in the state or actually developed in the state. And if 2 states get together and say, okay, we're only going to buy this from either state, and you collaborate, you actually push it towards innovation. So that's what I had to say. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll go back to the panel then. Thank you. Okay, so the next speaker, Reshmi, Poornima, will you just go ahead, please? She is director of Room to Read. It's a very interesting concept.
Thank you, Dr. Dilip, and thank you, the audience, for having the patience to be here right before the lunch. And we understand that this needs to be really interesting to be really surviving these next 20 minutes before the lunch is served. So I represent an organization called Room to Read. Room to Read is a non-profit organization working with the government in field of early literacy and the girls' education program. Now, let's talk a little bit about this topic, collaboration and the innovation. And we have been since morning looking at and hearing a lot of innovation that are happening at the states and some of the challenges that we also heard. And a stable and a sustained microeconomics management of Indian economy also requires action at the level of state that dovetails the action at the national level. Now, we hear a lot about what is happening at a national level. And I'm going to be specifically representing the social sector, not necessarily the organization that I come from, because I'm just trying to represent many of us here, the different work in education, healthcare, livelihood that is happening across the country. And states have a predominant role in social sector development and co-equal role with the center in the creation of physical infrastructure. We talked a lot about the industries, but now let's look at things from a social development side. You know, implementation of education reform is a state subject. While the national level can create the policies, can come up with missions like Nipun Bharat, Niti Aayog very rightly had put in the aspirational districts, even have now come up with the blocks that require aspiration. So looking at that, what are states doing? Is it really the state matter? Is it a state subject? And till the time the collaboration is not happening at a state level, it's not going to come together as a one. So let's for a moment understand from a social development sector point of view and from an education point of view, what does this collaborative growth means? This collaborative growth is actually spearing a holistic impact to really make sure that we are aligning to some of the SDGs, the social developmental goals. Let's talk about SDG 4 and 5, which is more on inclusive quality education and gender equality. And I'm going to be talking more about that today. And I'm going to be taking a few examples here of some of our experience of working across 11 states in India. As someone was saying, some very good experiences and then some mixed experiences. But you know, the way at a national level, Nipun Bharat guidelines have been made. And states have really picked it up, the way education is becoming a state subject. The annual work plans at the state level are being made. Now there would be different set of states wherein some of them which would have excellent way of working, who would have larger PMUs that they have set up to make sure that the governance of those projects, the governance of education reform is happening rightly. But at the same point in time, there would also be some states that are not doing so well. However, they could be learning from each other. So some of our experiences of working, say for example, with states like Madhya Pradesh, states like Uttar Pradesh, the excellent work, I mean, Roomturi doesn't work with Tamil Nadu, but the excellent work Tamil Nadu and Haryana has done in terms of bringing children literature into the forefront and really working on the foundational literacy areas. And these states, some of the best performing states that I'm talking about, they do understand, like the way Dr. Kapoor was just mentioning, that the learning outcome for children has to really change, that needle has to change. It won't change till the time the classroom practices do not change. And that's what the states are now realizing and making sure that, you know, it's just not really making a guideline at a national level or really making national curriculum frameworks, but to really align the government system, the government cadre to be able to gear up and really make that change and really implement and imbibe by some of these things. So I think, the foundational stage learning outcome will only change if the classroom practices change. The classroom practices change if the teacher behavior change. The teacher's behavior change if the block coordinators, the academic resource people, or the education officer at the state level are changing. And that changes if it is really a state subject. And the state subject matters if it is a national subject. So I would say that everything is so aligned, and, you know, we've been fortunate that in the education system, we have actually experienced how the states are really collaborating. One of the best thing, and Dilip ji was mentioning that this is one area that he would like to specifically see in his sector, which is that how states could collaborate and really do a cross-learning. And one of the best experiences that we have had, which is from 4 different states, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Uttar Pradesh, we actually have had cross-learning experiences wherein the state government, the state officials from one state travel to another state to really figure out what are the best practices. And again, one way of looking at it is that you make or you facilitate some of these exposure visits, and they become just exposure visits, and they're just more like coming together, celebrating, and having a good time and coming back. But I think what was very important and notable here was that when the states came back, they had to readjust their action planning. And they actually, when they collaborated, they came together, they really highlighted some of the best practices that they would like to adopt. So that was very notable, and I really have to appreciate all these 4 states who kind of agreed to visit another state, see the best practices, and really adopt some of the action planning there. Some of the innovations that we have seen largely with, states working wherein, and there are many, many innovations that we could talk about because education reform is something very new in the organization. So let's talk about, and I'll just take one example. I've already been given the timer notification, which is of Uttarakhand on, that some of the assessments that's been done, so the way Uttarakhand government has really, the Department of Education developed a mobile application for teachers that has worked quite well. The campaigns that were kind of initiated by the Ministry of Education, which was, a 90-day reading campaign, that kind of worked really well, and states collaborated. And I think, just to close on this, I would just like to close it by saying that what is collaboration? A collaboration from a mathematics point of view is that it may divide the work, but it multiplies the success. And that's a message that all our state needs to get, whether it is education, whether it's healthcare, whether it is livelihood, any of the social development work that we have to do. But unless you're not collaborating, you will not really target a bigger success. If we are really wanting to compete with the larger economies than ours, we need to collaborate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Poornima, and really for highlighting a kind of a cooperative effort among 4 states to address something very specific. We'll now get Ms. Reshmi Vasudevan to actually make her intervention. And she's really looking at manufacturing and manufacturing clusters, so hopefully there's a learning for us.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. And this is an amazing opportunity because we as in the Department of Science and Technology, and I from United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, collaboratively did a major study over 2020 till 2023. The study ran for 3 years, including the assessment and other things, on a National Manufacturing Innovation Survey. This study was very important because we studied the innovations at firm level, and we also looked at the innovation ecosystem, how firms interact with the innovation ecosystem and what linkages and actors and organizations are necessary, and if they're transparent, if they're accessible, and if there were knowledge exchange and other things. Considering the time today, we will discuss the challenges of the firms, and also we'll look at the learnings from the perspective of states. So the survey was done after DST had done about a decade ago, Department of Science and Technology, to the first National Innovation Survey. After that, there were a lot of findings, but then considering the country was still building up various private innovation ecosystem, it was very relevant that a decade later, we did a study looking at the manufacturing sector. And this is also important because we have the PLI scheme and various other manufacturing focused schemes that the government of India wanted to be prioritized to contribute to the GDP. To that end, UNIDO and DST collaborated, and we assessed 14,000 firms, and mind you, this was done during COVID. What was a field level survey got pushed to online survey, but we managed to assess 14,000 firms, and these firms were divided into two groups, one to study what are firms doing within the organization. Now, the survey has three broad criteria to look at what are the enabling mechanisms, what are the performances of the firms, and what are the barriers to innovation. Enabling mechanisms are what you would call as the inputs into a firm, capacities within a firm, and what knowledge and ecosystem linkages the firm has. Barriers, finance, policy, market access, capacity barriers were separately studied. Finally, we looked at, with all this in place, how did firms perform? And that is where the pudding is tested, how well they perform, right? So the results, an overview of results, and I want, because the study was done across India, 28 states and 8 union territories, and we looked at 54 nationally classified industrial sectors. So it was an exhaustive study. And there's so much of information that I cannot present today, but I would request the esteemed dignitaries here to look at DST's website and look at the National Manufacturing Innovation Study to look at what are findings with respect to your state. Here, I will present a few key findings. Of the total number of firms we surveyed, 25% of them were found to be innovative. So while the glaring 75% does not look great, in this 25%, 80% of them reported that they had tremendous improvement in their turnover, dealing with their market pressures, dealing with their cost pressures, looking at new market opportunities. Innovations have been very, very important. But firms took up innovations only when they see a clear market signal. And also firms took up innovations when there are sufficient capacities within them. So the takeaway from the 75% of firms were that either innovation, the markets were not ready, there was no market demand, or innovations were too expensive, so hence too risky. So you don't venture out there. But capacities within the firms, how do you convert the capacities you have within the firm to actual outputs? That's an important one. And that's where our assessment of the enablers to outcomes, we realized that even if there were an enabling policy in a state or for a particular industry, like somebody spoke about tax breaks, they were not able to convert into their advantage because of several issues. So the takeaway is that a basic enabling ecosystem is just not enough. You need more than that. And what is that is a whole lot of discussion. As I said, innovation capabilities of firms were critical to outcomes, and these have greater impacts when firms are able to use advanced technologies, Industry 4.0, ICT, or even to have an R&D strategy. And to have these capabilities, you need resources and access to your ecosystem. What is striking was, though finance was the most cited barrier, the most critical barriers that came about, what distilled through the innovation survey was your market barriers. The market barriers, where firms reported that market barriers were much more critical than your financial barriers. And this was closely followed by organizational rigidities. Within the organizations, if there was no innovation aspiration, because some sort of a status quo, or you are doing really well, and innovation means investing, changing your production systems, and that requires managerial, at a board level decisions, and if it's very expensive, boards were reluctant to do that. Now, that's an overview of what we found within the firms. What I'd like to now look at the same data when we disaggregate it as states, and we rank them. So we looked at, we use this, our indexes, I'll take a moment to describe how our indexes were. There were 80 indicators and very exhaustive, disaggregated as enablers, performance, and barriers. And these 3 pillars were combined to find the state rankings. While some of the results of the state ranking is not relevant here because obviously highly industrialized states had an advantage there. And like Amit Kapoor and others already alluded to, some of these rankings results do not really step too far away from the India Innovation Index. But what we created was the India Manufacturing Innovation Index, purely looking at your manufacturing challenges. I have 4 points here. Innovation performance does not commensurate the enabling innovation initiatives and even the lack of barriers. Even if there are sufficient, even if they felt there were no barriers, even if firms reported there were no barriers or barriers were not too challenging, their inability to tap into what the states provide was a key challenge. So our takeaway was states need to put more efforts to understand what innovation activities, investments, and what ecosystem challenges need to be met. Presence of enablers has greater impact than the absence of barriers. Innovation input activities, access to market information, and government support had greater influence on innovation outcomes. Basic enablers, my third point, are insufficient on their own. Many major industrial states reported satisfaction with respect to their investment climate, improved infrastructure, and positive policies. However, many of these firms in these advanced states were not able to access knowledge which was beyond, which I would put international collaboration, investments as in private investments, and broader corporations. So without these firms felt that they were extremely challenged despite what appears to be an industrialized state. An interesting example here is Gujarat as an industrialized state reported having the best innovation environment, but Gujarat was not one of the top 4 innovative states purely because of its challenges with the enablers. Finally, the frequency of barriers for different regions are different. Daman and Diu and Dadar Nagar Haveli reported highest satisfaction of the ecosystem, but also reported highest barriers. Our understanding is that the region has highest concentration of established industries and businesses like chemicals, textiles, plastic, pharma, and others. These barriers are believed to rise from some of the entrenched structures, existing production systems, that means inability to absorb new technologies, and low preferences of change. On the other hand, unsurprisingly, low-performing states did not report any barriers because innovation in their primary agenda, innovation was not part of their primary agenda. So if you're not intending to innovate, why would you even report barriers? Which is a serious concern. So this is just to give you a sense of what a massive collection of reports we have generated. And we also have looked at industry separately. We've also looked at the sectoral innovation systems, how the innovation systems within each sector function. But considering the time, I will just go into 3 points. India might need or would need a Make in India strategy, a Make in India innovation strategy. Open innovations have been very successful in India, and the learnings from the open innovation challenges that India has successfully delivered, we should also look at a way of bringing states to collaborate. And with that, I will take your leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Reshmi. And really using the study to actually bring out some key points on how we can address barriers to market and enable access to knowledge. Ashish, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chenoy. A very good afternoon to all of you, honorable luminaries from the government, statesmen, leaders from various sectors, academia, industry. A very good afternoon to all of you. I first of all would like to start by giving compliments on behalf of industry to Niti Aayog for leading India's journey on innovation. I think this is the scale, the Global Innovation Index, which you have given us, is actually kind of a lighthouse for all of us to where the country is moving ahead. And your work on the state level on the similar index is actually equally impressive and equally illuminating. We just need to emphasize its thoroughness more across the stakeholders. So great to be part of this conference and this workshop. My fellow panelists have spoken on this subject, but I will just speak on. I would like to give Dilip 3 points from my side, which would be happy to deliberate further, which can be instrumental in increasing and enhancing collaboration among states when it comes to innovation and capitalizing on the knowledge. I will use the word innovation and knowledge intentionally because in various pockets of our country, in various regions of our country, we have different level of knowledge base which remains unsynergized with the other parts of and other regions of the state, of the country. My first point towards that is, can we come up with a systematic synergy in capturing the traditional knowledge of the states and the regions? This means protecting the traditional knowledge through geographical indications, which many of the states are doing actually, but can we have a uniformity in our approach and how the GIs, the geographically credits to the knowledge can be secured to the regions, and then there can be exchange of this information amongst various states while ensuring that the benefits are given to the community which has traditionally been possessing this knowledge. I would like to coin this term which we have been using at various forums now. We call it as GI tourism. Can we somehow take forward GI tourism across the states in propagating the knowledge exchange between the states? That was my first point. The second thing, what we see is a kind of information asymmetry existing between the states in terms of their investment into generation of innovations and knowledge. We see that if we see the number of patents coming out from the states, we see that it's typically skewed towards some of the states. I won't go into naming them. The report from Niti Aayog has those details, but what does it signify is that some states are investing into patents and protection of IP of their innovations while others are not. And in this whole information asymmetry, are we actually losing at the national level the spirit of collaboration which can come out? And instead of collaboration, if we can start using what we call as the IP partnership, so that there's a skin in the game for the states for that. That was the second thought I had. And then just putting existing practice also, we have various states working on their specific problems. This is what government has initiated at various levels, the cluster-based approach, the cluster-based, innovation clusters-based solutions. Can we enhance the size of this a little bit? Because when it comes to common problems, some of the states may be having similar problems. So instead of states, if we go back to our traditional usage of regions, back then, I talked about tradition also. Back then, those times, we never used to talk about states. We always used to talk about regions, region of Malwa or Purvanchal or Uttaranchal, which means it's not specific to a state, but a region. And it has a similar problems to address. Then can the cluster-based approach be applied to the regions instead of states only? And it should be led by a leading academia of that particular region. And on behalf of industry, I assure we will do our best to enable the success of such a cluster-based approach. This brings to my fourth point, which is the industry-academia collaboration. Has been happening, but I think only in certain good pockets, needs to institutionalize it. And we talk about IITs, we talk about tier 1, tier 2 colleges, but at times we don't really leverage our NITs, which are our national institutions of technology, which erstwhile called as regional engineering colleges. The concept so beautifully articulated by the founding fathers of our country. The regional engineering colleges means the region has a particular say in that and the industry of that region. So there is a close connectivity which our industry and these academia regions can develop to bring across information exchange. Summing up all these 4 points, I would like to actually suggest if the panel and the government could look into enabling states come out with state innovation policies from each of the states. We don't have many states coming up with their own innovation policies, but like innovation policy has been helping at center and has been such a guiding tool for all of us, I think state level innovation policy will be of much help. I would like to pause here.
Thank you, Anish. Thank you for giving us our minutes for the session. Over to you, Nakul. You want to speak for me? Speak for me.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Will not keep you long for lunch, so I'll keep it very short and brief. I don't come from policy or great associations like these guys are from. I'm a startup called Cashify. We are India's largest used phone company, and my point to state collaboration is that the flow of data and information between states is the most critical aspect. There is a good example and there is a bad example also. A good example is before, say, GST implementation, I had 23 offices across different states in India just because of compliance and non-collaborative nature of states. Now I only have 2 offices across India because of a simple rule coming into, which is GST. Another bad example is because we are a platform where you can sell your old phone, we are open to people selling stolen phones. Now, stolen phone is a police subject, which is a state subject. The problem is that every state, the police is not digitized yet. So, if there is also information which exists that there is a stolen phone, that information cannot be relayed to the central government, and the states are not prioritizing it. So hence, the information is not flowing centrally for a player like us to do anything about it or stop these kind of activities. So there is a lot of scope of state collaboration, and everything boils down to how fast we can digitize information in each state and how states can collaborate with each other to share that information. I think I just wanted to convey that point and keep it very short, and over to you.
Thank you, Nakul. And Dr. Sinha is exactly 2:20. No, I think I want to open the floor for questions and answers. Summing up is not relevant here, but really would like to get any questions or answers from questions, ideas, because you are on the ground, you know more than most of us on the panel. Yes, please.
A very good session for especially for the education. Poonam has spoken very good collaboration for the four states in which UP is also very much collaborating with the other states and taking the best practices and scaling up in the different districts. Our basic education is very going underway, and we are taking so many innovative steps for just improving our quality education in the basic education. We have started our pre-basic education system for 100% enrollment in the UP, so that our spine can be more and more stronger than ever. Thank you.
I would just request to take this further in the innovation sphere, so it will help everybody.
So anyone else will request the states to be as interactive as possible, because all this is being done for you. The states and the UTs, if you have any questions related to any aspect of even the earlier sessions, you are welcome to ask now.
So I think nothing there. Just want to thank and congratulate Niti Aayog and thank Niti Aayog and everybody who's behind this for organizing this, and thank you for being such a great audience, and thank you panelists for being here and sticking to time and really putting forth some ideas.
Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the end of another discussion. As a token of our appreciation, we would like to present a small gesture of gratitude. I would request Dr. Ashish Sonkusre, Deputy Advisor, Niti Aayog, to felicitate our panelists.